So, welcome you all, friends. So, today we are going to conclude our discussions over the topic network function. So, this is the last lecture of the series of network function. Okay. So, earlier we already have discussed about the different parameters of the network function, that is driving point impedance, driving point admittance, current transfer ratio, voltage transfer ratio, right? And then we also see the properties of the impedance function, properties of the transfer functions, okay, how they can be practically realizable or whether the given circuit is realizable or not with the magnitude of the coefficients defined and with the predefined constraints. Okay, followed by we also see the type of different type of the networks under the head of the network ladder network, or you can say that non-ladder networks, okay, non-simplified ladder networks, different resistive or inductive or capacitive type, or the combination of RL and RC or RLC type. Okay, and now under the last series we are going to now consider the involvement of sinusoidal sources. Okay, we are now considering that it doesn't matter whatever the degree or order of your network is, the type of sources will be a sinusoidal input, right? So it is going to follow a sinusoidal pattern, either the sine waveform or the cosine waveform. And therefore then how the sinus, if the source type is a sinusoidal type, if input waveform is sinusoidal in nature, then what kind of impact it will put over the circuit. And then finally at the advanced stage of the this lecture series, we will be also supposed to consider the resonance. Okay, that how we can obtain the resonance and what is the criticality of the resonance or impact over the network function. Okay, so this is our today's agenda. So let us first start with the sinusoidal steady state analysis. See, the beauty of the sinusoidal signal, okay, or you can say that the sine wave or cosine wave, whatever you say. Okay, the beauty speciality of this particular sinusoidal waveform, it that makes it's completely different than that of the any other waveform is that if a sinusoidal signal is applied as an input to the network, okay, considering that your network is carrying a passive element, okay, it doesn't have any active element, for an example like transistorized devices or diode, crystal diode or something. If it is if your network is married or a combination, or even if it is a complex combination of passive elements all only, that means the RLC element, and you are feeding your source as a sinusoidal wave, that the beauty of this sinusoidal wave or the characteristic of this sinusoidal wave is that whenever such currents or voltages are appear across the capacitance of the network, or whenever the such current will pass through the inductive or resistive path of the network, okay, it always create a sign impression. So that means whenever you study the steady state response of such kind of elements involved in the network, okay, the behavior of the all the current and voltages are participating in this network are also bearing sinusoidal characteristic. Okay, now this is the unique thing what you can visualize when you consider your waveform as a your input waveform as a sinusoidal wave. Okay, unlike your sinusoidal wave in any other wave, okay, the behavior of the response of the individual element, that means the RLC's element, are typically different. Okay, so let's see. And then number two, can you see that see, as when we talk about the generation of the power, okay, so your supply frequency what you have over here, okay, right at my back, that this supply frequency should match with the frequency of the your prime movers, okay, your generating section in the power generation plant. So if you see the behavior or the characteristic of the prime movers, it follows a sinusoidal pattern. Okay, it follows generating section, it follow a sinusoidal pattern. Okay, the that means the amplitude and the direction of flow of the flux is always follow a sinusoidal pattern. So because it is follow a sinusoidal pattern, so your supply is available in sinusoidal pattern. That is one analogy. Number two, okay, can you see the beauty of the sine wave when you consider it as a function or as a waveform, what any other waveform doesn't carry? Can you tell us? Yes, someone may be partially correct. Okay, but you see, the beauty of this sine wave is that if you are going to take a exact perfectly sine wave, so number one, it is still a challenge to generate a perfect sine wave. That means the distortion or the harmonic loss should be zero. So to generate an ideal sine wave of 360 degree, you require an infinite bandwidth. first of all. Okay, I'm sorry, not infinite bandwidth, infinite number of harmonics you have to consider. So your nth order, you have written this number of times your Fourier series or Fourier transformation. So when you write your Fourier series, you have to generate an infinite number of harmonics. And when you are going to sum or integrate all those harmonics, you will be able to generate a perfect sine wave. If you are restricting your infinite, because infinite wave to attain an infinite harmonics, you require an infinite bandwidth, which is practically not possible. Okay, you can't have a filter which will provide you infinite bandwidth. So you cannot allocate the whole bandwidth of the world to a one particular signal. So you are restricting then infinite with a very high value. So let's say that n is a very high value. Now let's say if n is a 15, so that means what? You have to, other than DC value, you have to consider from the first order, second order till the 15th order to retain more than 99.97% information. Okay, so if you are going to collect the first 5 orders, that is 0 is the DC and 1 to 5, then you can collect around more than 99% information. That's the good news, but not 100%. So it still has a distortion. Okay, so I'm theoretically here assuming that you have a perfect sine wave. So if you have a perfect sine wave and you take the Laplace transformation of that particular sine wave, what you will get? Or the cosine wave, what you will get? You will get the pair of spectrum over the, you will get the pair of spectrum. Okay, so let me see if this is your omega, j omega, and I would say that this is the central frequency, it is 0. So and this side, either I am writing omega or I am writing f. So let's say f in hertz, and in this particular side I am going to represent minus of f. Okay, so I am going to represent minus of f. Okay, so it is a positive and negative of the x-axis. Okay, on frequency plane. Okay, obviously here we talk about the Laplacian domain because we stick to our network domain and network analysis. Fine. So if you will take the perfect sine wave, now let's say that f is operating at f1. So that means the frequency f1. Okay, the f1 is equal to the, if you say that f1 is equal to, you are going to define at 50 hertz. Let's say I will say that is 50 hertz. Okay, we are taking our standard supply frequency available all across the country. All across the country. Fine. So in that case, this f1 is different than that of 0. So I would say that there will be one spike you will get here. Okay, one delta function you will get here, and the pair of this delta function you will get in this stage over here. Okay, so this one is nothing but this plus f1, and this one point is minus f1. Okay, so remember, any delta function ideally you require 0 bandwidth. So the amount of bandwidth you require to process ideal sine wave is 0. Okay, though the 50 is a numeric value, but still 50 is very less as compared to infinite. Okay, I would say that the value of this f1, the value of f1 is still very less as compared to infinite. Okay, so as compared to infinite bandwidth, what you say, as compared to infinite bandwidth, this f1 is very less, so I can even negate it, I can even neglect it. Okay, so that is the reason, that is the beauty, that if you are going to carry your signal through a sine wave, it is as good as that theoretically required 0 bandwidth to carry that particular signal itself. Okay, that particular signal itself. Okay, so your carrier is required 0 bandwidth absolutely to carry your information from one end to another, or to carry your signal from the generation end to transmission end, or the transmission to the distribution, or distribution end to your household purpose to the end user. Okay, so that is the beauty of your sinusoidal wave, and that's why we insist for the steady state analysis, the whole purpose of this. So in the couple of slides we are going to evaluate that what kind of impact you will get if you are going to consider the input as a sine wave. Okay, so to continue our discussion, let's say we are going to consider admittance network. There is a, we are going to write down a nodal equation. So you are going to apply current as an dependent variable. Okay, so let's say it is I1 of s is equal to y of s vs. You can revert that thing also. V of s is equal to z of s into I of s. You can consider any admittance network, impedance network, it doesn't matter. Okay, so now the source you have been provided, your VFS is an independent variable. Remember, in this demonstration is going to define by some magnitude of v1. v1 is the magnitude of that particular source, and if you are going to take the Laplace transformation of that particular sine wave, you are getting omega 1, okay, which is operating at frequency f1, or omega 1 radian per second upon s square plus omega square. Okay, so if you have a signal is sine of omega 1 t, if you are taking Laplace of this, so that is you will get omega 1 square upon s square plus omega 1 square. Okay, you must know this, fine. So therefore, if you are going to substitute it, you can get the modified equation of IFS in terms of the sinusoidal transformation in Laplacian domain. Now, if you are going to simplify this equation, because you have a two complex conjugate roots, so you can take the partial fraction of this, okay, partial fraction expression you can write. So it is k1 upon s minus p1 plus k2 upon s minus p2 and so on. So in this, if you are going to represent, you will get k omega dash upon s plus j omega n and k omega dash upon s minus j omega s. That is creating s square plus omega 1 square. Okay. So in continuation to that, if the input is applying, you can also arrange in form of your standard in algebraic form, that is k1 e raised to p1t plus k2 e raised to p2t till k1 e raised to p1t. So in that case, steady state response of the signal you will get current is equal to v1 mod of y1 sine omega 1t plus phi. Okay. So you can also represent the same terms in terms of the same steady state response in terms of the exponential domain also, in exponential term also, okay, rather than adopting the Cartesian form. So that is, you know that your sine omega t is equal to e raised to j omega t minus e raised to j omega t upon 2j, and cos omega t is equal to e raised to j omega t plus e raised to minus j omega t by 2. So vt of cos omega t will be v by 2 of this whole expression e raised to j omega t plus e raised to minus j omega t. So if you are going to work it out, the ISS1 and ISS2, and you sum it both the things, so you will get the steady state response of that particular sinusoidal wave. Okay, as an example, here we consider a RL circuit. Okay, and from here Vt is equal to v of cos omega t. You can apply over here, because the input is given in this case v of cos omega t. If it is not given, you assume any cos omega t or sin omega t. Okay, convert it into the exponential domain. Okay, and then you can work it out with the coefficients, like in this case your coefficient is equal to a, which comes to b by 2 of j omega t. It is demonstrated over here. So for v by 2 of e raised to minus j omega t, you can work it out the steady state response. Okay, for v of t is equal to v cos omega v by 2 of e raised to j omega t, you can also work out the steady state response of the current. Let's say that is steady state response 1, ISS1, and for e raised to minus j omega 2 component, that is v e raised to minus j omega 2 by 2, you will get another reference is ISS2. So you ISS1 and ISS2, you add both, you will get the total response of the current. You substitute these values, what you are getting v upon r square plus omega l of whole square within bracket r cos omega t plus omega l sin omega t. Okay, or you can rearrange in form of the Cartesian form, that is v upon root over of r square plus omega l whole square cos of omega t minus tan inverse omega l by phi. What is this tan inverse omega l by? That is the phi. Okay, so phi is equal to, you are getting tan inverse omega l by phi. So similarly, I hope that you take your time to solve this parallel RL circuit. Assume that there is a sinusoidal input is along with some phase delay, that is phi. This time we consider over here. Okay, it is now I cos omega t plus phi. So earlier time we consider cos omega t plus phi. Now you try to find out the steady state response of the network. You have 5 minutes of time. So in this case, now we consider the sinusoidal steady state analysis for the parallel RL circuit. Okay, so here you see that the source is given in terms of the current, and okay, so okay, you write down the equation. It is I cos omega t plus phi. So what you can do, it is I by 2 e raised to j within bracket omega t plus phi and plus e raised to minus j omega t plus phi. Okay, so the overall response you are getting for the current passing through the resistive network, it is actually v by r. So IR is equal to v by r, and for the inductor it is 1 by L integration of v dt. So okay, so if you see that situation in question mentioned below, your source is given v naught cos omega t plus phi is applied to a series circuit, RLC circuit. Okay, obtain the instantaneous value of current for the steady state response. Okay, so remember you have to find out I of t, not ISS. So you can work it out your answer in Laplacian domain, and then you can finally, once you got the ISS and the steady state response of the current, then you can work it out in the You take the inverse Laplace of this and then you can convert into the instantaneous value of current. So you have a series RLC circuit is given, voltage drop is VR, VL, VC. You can assume it, or maybe the in circuit it is given. Okay, source is the sinusoidal source and its magnitude is V naught. DC magnitude is V naught, and the factor is cos of omega t plus phi. There is a phase reverse. Okay, there is a phase delay and is omega t plus phi. So remember, it is always a phase delay. Delay signal is given. Okay, so you take the couple of minutes of time, and I hope that you will be able to solve it. So ultimately, what response you think that your current IT will get? It is I of IT is equal to, maybe say you can take some numeric value I naught. I naught is the magnitude, E is of cos omega t plus phi. This is okay. This is the analogy of sinusoidal steady state response. It says that if the source waveform, if the input is a sinusoidal waveform, then the current and voltages appearing or passing through all the passive elements of the network also follow the sinusoidal pattern. And here your job is to calculate I of t. Understood? So either you can solve okay, in a descriptive case, in case of analysis, of course you should attempt and solve it step by step. But if I will tell you from gate examination like point of view, so the your fundamentals suggest that even you don't require to solve it. So you should get the kind of pattern is I is equal to I naught. I naught I am assuming is a DC magnitude, okay, or instantaneous value, okay, frequency independent term, and then we decide the magnitude of the waveform. So it is I naught and cos omega t plus phi. That should be your answer. Okay, I hope that you solve a couple of minutes of time, and then we'll see verify that whether you are going to get that particular waveform or that pattern or not. So I hope that you're able to satisfy the thing. You see, okay? In my presentation, I assume during my discussions, I assume it is I naught. So here it is mentioned I. It doesn't matter what nomenclature you are using. Okay? So I hope you understand this. Okay. So the next topic we will now talk about the resonance circuit. Okay, or it is a tuning circuit. So resonance circuit is typically a combination of a RLC circuits. It can be a series combination of RLC circuit, as you can see in this particular circuit. It is nothing but it is series resonance circuit, but it can be a parallel resonance circuit also, where you may typically get a combination of a series combination of RL in parallel with C, or the series combination of R in parallel with LC, or different series combination of RC with parallel C, depending on type to type application. But one of the most popular parallel resonance circuit combination is parallel combination of RLC, all three together. Okay, just like here you see the RLC in series, the complement network of this particular series. So these two networks are very, very popular. Okay, now the question comes that why resonance is so critical that we study it since from higher level of school level. Okay, almost you can say that the inter-science level, matriculation level, to till on in different engineering or sciences applications. Okay, so the answer is very simple. Resonance is everywhere. Fine. Each individual entity, any physical entity or any human being or any electric man-made circuits, what you see, okay, in this nature, okay, everything, each and everything is tuned to a particular frequency. What does it mean, tuned to a particular frequency? Means that is the frequency that where you can get the optimal response from that particular circuit or from that system or from that human being. Okay, even nature always follows the same set of rule without violating at any instant of time. There is no exception at all. There is no exception at all. Okay, okay, so you see any physical circuit, any electrical network, okay, this always gives you the most countable performance, okay, most attractive performance at a particular frequency, and before and then after to that the performances keep on declining, and that decline in performance we can also measure with the hello plus minus 3 dB scale or plus minus 6 dB scale. Okay, so we will see this later on. Okay, how you can connect this resonance frequency to calculate the bandwidth of the system. Okay, the minimum allowed range of frequency that will help you to operate the system faithfully. Okay, in terms I'm talking about the signal waveform. Fine. Okay, so here let us consider a series RLC circuit to calculate the resonance of the network. So let us, the first job what we will do, that we are going to find out the driving point impedance of the network. So we are going to calculate the overall impedance of this particular network, okay, and converge it into the you can also converge the same expression in terms of the driving point impedance, or you can use the uh, partial fraction expression and you can simplify the network. In any way, if you are going to write down a characteristic equation of this particular impedance function, it is S square plus R by L of S, plus 1 by LC is equal to 0. So from here you can get your two roots, Z1, Z2, or what you can write S1, S2 is minus R by twice L plus J root over of 1 by L, say R by twice L. So you are getting two roots over here, fine. So therefore, how we can define this particular resonance frequency? So you can say one of way, there are many ways. So one of way is that, okay, this is the factor, okay, driving resonance frequency of the circuit, okay, is a factor at which the performance of the system, okay, is attained at its highest level. Performance of the system can be attained at the highest level, okay. So because it is a S plane, so S is equal to J plus sigma plus J omega, you can say. So therefore now you are making this term is equal to sigma is equal to 0. So that means what? Loss of information at the point frequency where it is attaining zero loss, okay, or the system is converged as the lossless, practically, not theoretically, because theoretical lossless means it's zero loss. Practically you can say that the least amount of loss. So the loss is minimum, then the information in terms of magnitude what you will get, that you can attain the highest magnitude. So you will get a Gaussian curve like this, okay. So you can get the Gaussian curve like this, okay, a shape of a, you can that just like a shivling, okay. So at the optimal point, okay, of the shivling you have got the highest magnitude. So that's for the reference I'm telling you. So if let's say the horizontally is your j omega axis, okay, and the vertical is your depth of the signal, whether it is a sigma plus j omega, okay, or you will take as a reference is omega. So at that particular frequency you are getting the highest magnitude. Before or after there is a positive slope or negative slope after this, and your but amplitude is kept on decreasing. Understood? And there is a point you called plus minus 3 dB point. At that particular point, the power level is exactly half, because at plus minus 3 dB point, the voltage level or current level you will get V by root over 2 or I by root over 2. And if you are going to work out the amount of power dissipated at that point, that follow the I square R or V square by R. So what you will get? It will be V by 2 or I by 2. So that means what? The power in terms of voltage or current, you will attend the maximum 50% of that particular voltage. So if you are getting maximum 50% of the magnitude or the information, what is the rest 50%? Rest 50% is actually noise, unwanted signal. So you do not want to filter in or allow any signal to come in which contains more than 50% noise. Otherwise it will be very difficult to analyze the signal. It's very difficult to interpret the information from that particular signal. So anything beyond plus and minus 3 dB point we used to avoid it. Okay. So this minus 3 dB point to plus 3 dB point, this span decides the bandwidth of the system. Okay. So that is the point. That means the frequency where you are getting highest frequency, that is called your critical frequency, or sometimes we call it resonance frequency. So in previous expression, if you are going to compare it with 0, so this fraction you can compare it with the 0. So from here you will get is equal to the value of Ra is equal to 2 of root over LC. So that is the critical resistance you have to work out. The one means value of the resistance in that RLC circuit should be how much? Should be 2 times of root over factor of L by C. Then and only you will get the critical frequency. Okay. Damping ratio, as I have told you, it is defined as the ratio of the actual resistance to the critical resistance, and in form is defined in terms of zeta. Okay. So if it is a say that for a resistive network, it is R by of RC. The value of RC or the critical resistance RA is already known. It is 2 upon root over of L by C. So you can substitute here. So what you will get? R by 2 root over of C by L. So where the value of damping factor is varying between 0 to 1 to to satisfy the condition of under damping. Okay, because you know that 99% time your application will drop based on under the head of under damped mode only. There is a hardly few exception for the overhead damping, and then for the rest you can say that over damped system. And typically the critical damping practically we can't achieve is because for that you have to attend the infinite rate of change, and that infinite rate of change, that means your magnitude should be shoot up from 0 to 5 volt or from 5 volt to 0 volt with no time. So that rate of change is actually very infinite, right? So you cannot practically achieve. And then second is your natural frequency, the frequency where your physical device is operating, your system is operating, your circuit is operating. Okay. So it is, you can write whether it is omega n or omega r, it is up to you. It is 2 pi r or 2 pi r. Right? So you know your impedance circuit, you can substitute these values. So from here natural frequency how much you are getting, because of LC network is involved, we have seen. So it is 1 upon root over LC, or in terms of hertz you can mention it is 1 upon 2 pi root over LC. So for 1 upon 2 pi you don't need to bother about it. Ultimately it is a sum constant. Okay. Fine. So what is the factor now is zeta omega n or zeta omega r. I haven't told you that that is the time period decided. That is 1 upon time period. So total time period of operation of the cycle, if there is the t, so one cycle t is defined by 1 upon zeta omega n, or if you have written r here, so in my notes you can refer omega r. So omega r, omega n is actually same thing. Okay. So for in terms of resistive network, it is how much you are getting, r by 2 root over of, that is RC. Okay, RC upon root over of LC. So you can substitute the value of RC. So you can get more simplified expression r upon twice L. That is the point where your zeta omega n you will be supposed to operate. So therefore, can you calculate your zeta? So your calculate zeta will be r upon twice zeta omega L. Okay, so you can substitute the value of zeta. Now probably you can appreciate what you have got, 1 upon of 2 q, where q is a q factor, right? Quotient point where you are getting the maximum magnitude, right? And then therefore q is equal to omega L by r. That is called your quality factor of the system. Okay, you are getting the highest quality of the response. The frequency where you are getting the highest quality of the response is the quality factor, right? I hope that you will be able to appreciate it. And this S-plane domain expression we have been already discussed, where I've been already told you that this particular zeta is nothing but it is equal to represent by the cos phi, or you can say that phi is equal to cos inverse of zeta. Okay, that is the angle of rotation. So angle of rotation from where? From this origin, from this horizon. Okay, so this factor is 0 and this angle of rotation is keep on increasing. Okay, unlike, okay, in tangent angle. Okay, in tangent angle you are moving from, in time domain we are moving from, you can say that in anti-clockwise direction, you are moving in clockwise direction. Please be noted. Okay. So some more facts about the series resonant circuit. So similarly, you consider the resistive network. In that way, you can also consider the inductive or capacitive network, XL or XC. And what if the tuning is going to occur with that particular reactive network, either the inductive in nature or in capacitive in nature? So you know that in any inductive or capacitive network, at the point of resonance for x is equal to 0, XL minus XC should be equal to 0. In other words, omega L should be equal to 1 by omega C, or you can say the resonance frequency should be equal to 1 upon root over of LC. Fine. So again, you can substitute this value. How much the magnitude of VR you will get? That is I into R. So you can substitute the value of R. I into XL, you can substitute the value XL, and I into XC, you can substitute the value XC, which is equal to V by R. Okay, so that's how you can get the series resonance of the response. Okay, you see this particular characteristic. This is the resonance point where you are getting the maximum Q factor. Okay, okay. To continue our discussion, right? Some additional terms will come. Okay, selectivity, sensitivity. Okay, half power frequency. Half power frequency means the point where you are getting half power, where you will get plus minus 3 dB point. Okay, so it is, in other words, it is also called as the cutoff point, because beyond this particular frequency we do not want to attain or retain any information or signal of from the incoming wave. Okay, and that's why it is sometimes it's called the half power frequency. Why half power frequency? Because at the cutoff frequency the amount of power carrying by your signal is half of the maximum amplitude at the Q factor point. Okay, so whatever power it is carrying at omega r, at omega 1 or 2, as you in this demonstration, the amount of power will be exactly half of that value. So that's why it is also called half power. These are the different kind of nomenclature, but ultimately meaning is the same. Okay, so now remember one of the most important thing, any information, to define any information, you at least minimum required a cross section of information. That means you require two domain, one independent variable and one dependent variable. As you know that independent variable can only be a time or frequency, whereas the dependent variable you can define in terms of the, either in terms of the current or in the voltage, or maybe sometimes the power signal or the energy signal also in some exceptional case. Normally we define in terms of voltage or current and the power. Fine. So it is basically a curve is drawn in between the Q factor. The vertical axis is Q factor and horizontal axis is the frequency deviation. So now you can see, you can appreciate that if a information is defined in terms of area of cross section, okay, and if you are going to squeeze, if you are going to compress the bandwidth of that particular information, so to retain its own shape, what it will do, it is going to expand from the vertical direction. So more the compression you will do from both sides in the horizontal direction, okay, to reduce the bandwidth, more it will expand to retain the same area of cross section. For example, there is an area of cross section where you see that the bandwidth is equal to 4 and the magnitude is equal to 5. Okay, now what I am doing, I am going to stretch the bandwidth, okay, by the 20% margin. So initially the bandwidth is 4, okay, vertical magnitude is 5, so it is 5 plus 5 into 4, sorry, product of 5 plus 4 is 20. Okay, so the magnitude unit Okay, information unit is 20 units. Now what I am doing, I am going to stretch my bandwidth in such a way that it is reaching to 5. You have stretched it to 20% margin. Okay, you are expanding it. So what happened? To retain that 20 unit, the magnitude will reduce by the 20% margin. Okay, so now what is the shape you are getting? 4 cross 5 is equal to 20. So ultimately you got the same product unit, but this time the magnitude is compromised by the 20% margin, whereas the bandwidth is increased by the 20, expanded by the 20% margin. So remember, more wider the bandwidth of a signal is, more the wider the bandwidth you are going to entertain for a signal, or more the wider bandwidth you are going to provide to retain a signal, incoming signal, the Q factor will be low. If you are going to improve the Q factor, you have to compromise with the bandwidth. Okay, so there is always a trade-off between the Q factor. Okay, that is the quality factor, that means the maximum amplitude of information, maximum amount of chances of information, okay, maximum quality of information, and the bandwidth. Okay, so you always have to play a trade-off between the two terms, that is the quality factor and the bandwidth, okay, to get the optimal response. And the difference between these two cutoff frequency is called your difference of the frequency, that is called the bandwidth, either delta omega or delta f. Okay, fine. So the bandwidth of in this particular case is how much? It is upon r by 2 pi l. Okay, or in other words, it is fr upon q, or in other words, you can say that it is omega r upon 2 pi q. Yeah. So there is a lot applications. Okay, I hope that it must make sense. I have been already discussed with you. Okay, so you see that your quality factor is defined in terms of your resonant frequency, or what in other words called your natural frequency, upon deviation in frequency. So quality factor and bandwidth are inversely proportional to each other, and quality factor and resonance frequency are proportional to each other. If you are going to improve the bandwidth, quality factor has to be compromised. If you want to improve the quality factor, bandwidth has to be compromised. Okay, so now in the next mode of discussions, we will consider a parallel tune circuit, or sometimes it is also called the tank network. Okay, widely utilized in the area of communication engineering and in application relevant to the microelectronics, okay, and nanoelectronic devices. Right, so you see here that now it is a RLC circuits, elements are arranged in parallel combination with respect to the source, and now again you are going to repeat the same exercise, because now there are the multiple nodes are available. So rather than we will write the impedance equation, this time we would prefer to write down the admittance equation in terms of the nodal form, so that we can simply solve it without much analysis or the delay. Okay, so here you see all the expressions are being repeated, the resonance frequency you are getting the same, the quality factor you are also getting the same. You can do this exercise. I would encourage you that repeat the whole exercise what we have discussed in series resonance circuit for the parallel resonance circuit, and to see that whether you are getting the similar performance or not. Okay, you would appreciate that whether you talk about the critical resistance, or whether you talk about inductive resistance, or in terms of Z, the tuning value, the tuning of the resistive component, critical resistance in terms of LC, you will get the same, that is the root factor of root over L by C. That is the degree of selectivity for a parallel circuit. So tomorrow if someone is asking what is the degree of selectivity of parallel circuit, you say that it is the critical resistance which decides the degree of selectivity, that is root over by LC. That is equal to root over by LC. Let us take a couple of problems to develop more understanding. Okay, there is a series RLC circuit is given, which is in this problem mentioned is that it is operating at a 1 megahertz signal. So remember, it's a very high frequency signal. So remember, that means the element, the magnitude of the elements partition, or the size of the element will be reducing as the operating frequency increases. Mass of the element, mass of the circuit is reducing. Okay, because it is inversely proportional to that particular value. Okay, so I hope that from the previous equations you got that particular idea. Okay, so okay, so your mass is basically mass of the physical device is inversely proportional to resonance frequency. Okay, it's a root over times of the resonance frequency upon root over of fr or omega r, you can say. Okay, so if the bandwidth is 60 cps is given, okay, and 5000 cps, sorry, okay, that means cycles per second. Cps stands for cycles per second is given, radian per second is given. Okay, and the input impedance of the resistance is given 50 ohm. So if the input impedance Z is equal to 50 ohm or R is equal to 50 ohm, so find out the value of RLC. Okay, so you know the resonance frequency, LC values are supposed to be calculated. Okay, the value of the operating frequency is given, the bandwidth is also given. Okay, So from bandwidth you can work out the value of Q factor. Okay, and with this you can first of all probably you will be able to get the value of L, because L is equal to R upon 2 pi delta F. Delta F is already known, bandwidth is already known to you. Okay, so the value of resistance is given 50 ohms. Okay, so in that case you can calculate the value of L. Once you get the value of L, so using Fr is equal to 1 upon 2 pi root over LC, you can get the value of C. Okay. One more interesting problem. I would give you, I think, 5 minutes of time. You go through this particular problem. What the problem is that it is required to construct a series resonance circuit, okay, with the following conditions. The condition is given. The capacity of the capacitor is 250 picofarad. You cannot take more than that. Resonant frequency should operate at 600 kilohertz, and the bandwidth to activate that particular, to retain the required amount of quality factor. Okay, quality factor, remember, you have to calculate in this problem. So the required amount of quality factor to attain from this particular RLC circuit, the amount of bandwidth is given, that is 20 kilohertz. You cannot take more than that. That is fixed. Okay, so again you can apply. I hope that I will give you 5 minutes of time. You will be able to solve. Do it. So as you can appreciate, you are saying that your FR, you can write it down. C is given, FR is given. You can find out the value of L. Okay, bandwidth is already given. So from there you can work out the Q factor, because Q factor is equal to FR upon bandwidth. So the bandwidth is equal to FR by Q. Okay, and Q is also omega L by R. Okay, so from there you can work out the Q is now known. So you can work out the value of R. Right, and from there what else is mentioned? Yes, percentage of the current at 500 kilohertz. Okay, 600 kilohertz the resonance frequency. So what is the percentage of current at 500 kilohertz? So at 600 kilohertz, remember, is the resonant frequency. So that is the maximum current you are getting, IM, quality, highest quality factor. So what is at 500? So that means current, value of current is decreasing. One thing is very sure. Okay, so how much it is? So your change in frequency is F minus FR, that is the 100 hertz. Okay, so if you are going to compare in the standard equation, 1 upon 1 square plus 4q square delta F square upon F square. So this change in frequency is 100 hertz. So you can compare minus 100 hertz into multiply into 10 raised to 6, 500 hertz kilohertz. Okay, so it is 500 square into 10 raised to 6. Fine. Q factor is 4 into 30 raised to 2. Okay, and 4 into Q factor is 30. You got, I guess, yes, 30 is a dimensionless quantity, 3 1. So you substituted here, you are getting 0.083. So that means 8.3%. So that means value of I is compromised by 8.3% of the IM. So remember, IM is the highest magnitude of current. Okay, I hope that you enjoy this problem. So the similar kind of circuitries we can see. I hope that the fundamental, all the aspects of fundamental so relevant to the network function should be now clear to you. So in the next lecture series, as far as the continuation of module 3 is concerned, we will jump to the three-phase system, and we will discuss a little bit about balance and unbalanced type of the load and the measurement of power using the 1 watt meter, 2 watt meter method. Okay, and some typical classical calculations relevant to the three-phase circuit analysis. Okay, we will restrict our discussion to the circuit level analysis only. So with this, I am here ending up. Good luck.